I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On this program, do you want a federal election right now?
Absolutely. We need to make some big changes in our federal government.
No, I'm not ready for election because there's no choice. You know, they're all the same.
I'm kind of undecided at this point.
Emotions are raw, and having kind of a gauge of where the population is, I think that would be a good thing.
Talk of an early federal election has been going on for a while now, and Canadians will be voting across the country on September 20th. But a lot has changed since Canadians last went to the polls in 2019. Our circumstance has shifted dramatically due to a global pandemic. The latest this election could have been held would be October 16th, 2023, more than 2 years from now. So we set out across the country to ask Canadians if the timing is right for a federal vote. Our question: do you want a federal election right now?
Not right now. I think people have had enough of everything. People just need to get back to a little bit of normal. And I don't think we need to put signs everywhere.
Absolutely. We need to make some big changes in our federal government.
I'm not sure that the result is going to be that different to what we have now. It might be a minority government on the other side. I don't think you're going to get a huge majority either way.
I would say with the way Canada's moving right now, especially during the pandemic, the way things have been dealt with, I do believe there's a change to be made. I don't think Canada was ready for the pandemic at all, and the fact that it's taken this long for us to get this many people vaccinated, obviously there's a little lack of leadership there.
I haven't put any thought into it. I don't feel the need for, I'm not, don't feel that I need to vote for a new party right now.
No.
Why?
I don't know. I just don't feel like, it's the right time. I know that sounds, we're just coming out of a pandemic and I don't think anyone wants to deal with it.
No, I would not. No. It's like paying for branding over and over. No, we're tired. We could use a break from lots of things. That's one.
It's just not the time to spend money on politics. It's time to spend money on the pandemic, on the Indigenous problems, on straightening out the country.
Personally, I don't think we really need one, but, it's a democratic issue, democratic right, so we sort of have to exercise that every 4 years or so, and it sure beats the alternative of non-democratic and dictatorship and military government and that type of thing. So, it has to happen. Whether I want it or not, it's going to happen.
Not really.
And why is that?
Because we're just out of a mess. Let's take a deep breath and just enjoy the way it is now. And I think the government, whoever was leading it, has done a good job provincially, federally. Let's just enjoy the next few months and quietly take care of ourselves and our families.
I think it's too early. We're still in the midst of this. I mean, we think we're over, but I'm very concerned about the Delta variant in the U.S. especially, and that's spreading here.
I'm kind of undecided at this point. I'm not sure where I would vote exactly. I'm not unhappy where things are at right now. So to me, I'm unsure if we need a federal election at this point.
A federal election now, I'm fine, honestly. I always vote every election I'm eligible to, but I'm almost burnt out. Up in Nanaimo, we had a ton recently, like 4 or 5 in a row there. Yeah, I think things are okay right now, personally.
I don't think Canada's ready for it right now. We've got to get another year over this COVID stuff and then probably be more positioned to do it a year down the road than we are right now, or even 18 months down the road. Don't want Trudeau to win that long, but I think it'd be better for everybody if we get the course going first before we actually sail the ship.
No. Why not? Billions of dollars have been spent for COVID relief in many different forms, and I think that a federal election is just an added cost to an already struggling economic country, like the economics of this country. Simple as that.
Yes and no. I am very unhappy with the Conservative leadership, federal leadership. I would like to see them step it up a little bit and be more proactive.
So in that sense, as a Conservative, I don't think I would like an election. However, I think the people of Canada need to voice their opinion and voice their vote. So it's a yes and no answer.
It would depend on what the need will be for, but I think if there's some serious concerns that needs to be addressed, then yes, a federal election would be appropriate at this time.
No, I don't think it's an opportune time to do that. As I say, we have a lot of housekeeping matters in this country that need to be straightened away, and to embark on an election that is more about who's spending as much money as the other one, or digging up dirt. I don't think we need that right now. I think we need a kinder, gentler place, what Canadians are noted for.
I don't think it matters. I think that I'm not sure what the motivation behind calling an election was, but if calling an election allows for whatever government becomes the government to feel more secure in their position to make the decisions that they want to have in place and the policies they want to have in place, then perhaps it is time.
Yeah, I think any time that we can get people's opinions out there, it's good. Democracy works well when it's checked often, so I think absolutely having a federal election right now in the wake of the pandemic too, right? There's people's opinions on local or federal government have changed, and I think emotions are raw, and having kind of a gauge of where the population is, I think that would be a good thing.
I think with a minority government, there's a lot of things that aren't getting passed that should be fixed. The speediness of things getting fixed and legislation changing, I mean, it isn't as fast as it should be. So, of course, in an election, if it can make changes that are faster and better for the Canadian people, then why not? Yeah, I have nothing against it.
The COVID and everything else, you don't want it to push your luck. I think it should be more like late fall or next spring. Be best time. I would like to see the government go as far as possible. Try to work together instead. These stupid infighting and stuff like that is just dumb. Just work together and get things done.
For each and every political party, those who are chosen to lead it become the face voters attach to the brand. During elections, political party leaders travel the country putting forth their ideas to Canadians. And those who lead in opposition hold the governing parties accountable for their policies and decisions. So, as Canadians prepare to make up their minds, what are your impressions on those who lead the parties you may be voting for? Our question:
how satisfied are you with our federal party leaders?
Not very satisfied at all. I think they're absolutely docile. As my wife said, important issues like First Nations, housing for people that can't get the housing market, there's nothing happening. It's just sailing along without any action at all to support people that need it, to be honest. Not very happy at all.
I could never be a politician, so I do have a lot of respect for what they do and how they do it, but I do think there are things that could be done better, and I think that there are things that could be changed, but I think that you also get that with every party.
Very unsatisfied with Justin Trudeau. I think he's not done. I think he's not been the person he showed he was going to be. I'm also very unsatisfied with the Conservative leader. So unsatisfied I can't remember his name at the moment. But I don't think he is doing the job that the Conservative Party needs to be doing in this country, which is really offering an opposite viewpoint to what the Liberals offer.
I guess I would say I'm disappointed in a lot of the topics that they bring up that I don't think are relevant. I would rather they just stick to the basics. Let's deal with the problems that we have. Let's not bring in social issues that Canadians have already decided on. We've got our social agenda set, and I think we should stick to that. Let's deal with the ongoing issues, the Indigenous problems we have, the economy.
I would say I'm very dissatisfied with the current crop of federal leaders. I think we absolutely can do better. I think they're interested in showmanship far more than they are in producing anything of substance. I think the critiques that they produce are rather ineffective and focused on winning, news appeal and much less on actually saying anything. I'm convinced that, sure, they know how to do things behind the scenes, but I'm concerned by the fact that that's not what they choose to project.
not very satisfied. Again, I think that our political machine has gotten to such a level that they cater to the interests that get them elected, and their main interest is not necessarily altruistic in the best thing for the country, but how do we get reelected?
I'm very unsatisfied with Justin Trudeau. Because I think he's an actor. I think he's very disingenuous. I think he is severely underqualified for the job that's ahead of him and that's been in his control. Very, very disappointed with what's happened in this country.
Our present government, I think they've handled themselves very well, considering the pandemic. Could they have notified the country earlier? We had information as a country. My understanding from what I hear from our government and others, that information was there and we could have gotten out of the gate a little sooner and perhaps shortened the stay, but who knows. But I think that they're doing quite a remarkable job at this point. Criticism, you know, there's always going to be critics, and you can't be all things to all people.
Not satisfied at all. I think there's a lack of action around a number of topics, right? From everything from First Nations to the economy. There's just, you know, Trudeau's been in power for how long, and we're not seeing really a lot done.
I'm sort of satisfied with them. I mean, you could have other people in there and you can criticize them, but they're doing their best, and you know, we need them. So I don't know who you're going to put in any different that's going to be any better.
Oh, I'm getting less and less satisfied. I was quite satisfied at the beginning, with optimism and sort of a vision. Now I'm less satisfied with that.
Not satisfied.
Why?
One, Trudeau, I think, has messed up the whole COVID response. He's also bankrupted the country. And I don't know enough about the other one. He's just sort of non-existent.
I'd say I'm about 75% satisfied.
And why?
They got us through this COVID thing. They sort of seem to work together there. Other than that, I think they're doing a good job.
Oh, I am definitely not satisfied. We watch how they give out money to all these other countries to help everybody else. But who's helping our own people, especially us seniors, especially the veterans out there? We're all living on barely anything.
I think they're doing okay. It's a tough year, and I think they've done the best job that they can. It's not perfect, but it was a strange situation, and everybody was kind of figuring everything out on the fly, whether it be federally or provincially. I think that everybody did the best they could, so that was the main focus of everybody, and they did a pretty good job. I'm okay. I'm okay with what they did.
When was the first woman elected to the House of Commons? 1867, 1921, 1958. 1867, 1921, 1958.
I would say probably, it's hard, but 58?
1958.
I would say 1958 too. 1958.
I'm going to say 21. 1921?
I'm just going to guess 1958.
1958.
I would have said 58.
1921, perhaps?
You are absolutely correct, sir.
Oh,
Very good.
all right.
Elbow bump.
The 1921 election was the first where some women could run to be MPs themselves. That year, 4 women ran for office, but only one was victorious. Agnes MacPhail became the first woman elected to the House of Commons as Progressive MP for Grey Southeast, Ontario. Although she faced opposition from traditionalists and her own party, MacPhail remained in office until 1940.
The needs of voters across the country and what they find important will vary depending on what region you're talking about. While COVID-19 has taken up much of the focus over the last 17 months or so, things like unemployment, healthcare, or the economy, just to name a few, remain high on the priority list for many Canadians. So once again, we set out across the country to ask Canadians what topics will they be thinking about when they cast their votes at the ballot box. Our question:
What issues will decide your vote?
That's a great question, because I think that the promises in the federal budget are issues that are important to me. Long-term care, but not just building more warehouse buildings. More creative long-term care. Certainly the child care that was promised. Pharmacare that was promised.
I guess the big thing for me is environmental, which I feel like is, all of young people's main concern, sustainability. Obviously, like social issues like affordability. I know that the economy is like a rank thing to control, right? But especially for like my generation right now, like for example in Regina, like the housing market is pretty bad.
A lot with infrastructure, schools, mostly infrastructure. I'm an iron worker, so I do want the highways better, and relieve some traffic in the area and things like that. Like we can build all these high rises here. But the more we build up, the more we're going to need to build our streets, and we're going to need to build our highways better, because there's a lot of people coming to Kelowna, and we're going to need to relieve some of that congestion. So that's what I would go with.
People on retirement don't have a living wage. A lot of people don't have a living wage. People can't afford pharmaceuticals. Those are usually the issues that inspire me, but of course there's a lot of social justice issues and things as well that also parties, you can't get that stuff wrong. You have to get it right, because people are, as we age and culture changes, people understand what they did wrong in the past, and you got to get that stuff right now.
I think it's going to be tricky because the federal debt has run up really high, and there's no miracle in it. You can still keep spending to support a number of initiatives, which are all good. However, how are we going to work our way out of it, And that's a big unknown.
Canada needs to pivot to better energy sources. And I get the impression that some people are, and I see why, but we're stuck in sort of a toxic cycle of resources and depleting them. So, yeah, that's to me the biggest thing.
What issues would I? Obviously, environment. It's becoming more and more an important and crucial topic. It's been ignored for so many years. The genocide that has happened to First Nations, the indigenous peoples of this country, that's our original sin. We need to really act on that, and with immediacy and honesty and clarity.
Funding for the arts, especially for young people, really young people, like children and teenagers and stuff like that, more venues and stuff like that can help them. Just resources to help teach people who are underprivileged and stuff like that. That kind of stuff would make a big difference for me and who I would vote for.
Indigenous issue, how they're going to resolve that, how they're going to bring Canadians together on that issue. And I guess what's going to happen, how are we going to pay for COVID? How is that going to impact our taxes for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
It
seems pretty obvious to me that the environment and our relationship to the Indigenous people has to be sort of everything going forward.
I don't know. I think this time around it's probably going to be environment, COVID recovery. Those are probably the two biggest ones right now.
Federally, I think they're just going to do what they want to do. I'm more of a provincial guy, and I'm more concerned about what they do as a province as compared to federally. I mean, to me, federally flows money to the province. That's the only thing I get out of the federal government. I don't look at the federal government for anything else.
Well, being a senior, obviously, issues concerning seniors would be, I'm always up that sort of information. And I guess, like everything else, it's, the economy, global warming, the whole, I guess, broad breadth of issues, but they all play a part.
Homelessness would be a big thing. I mean, there's so many homeless people here now. It's terrible since the pandemic. And people just on assistance, they can't afford, you know what I mean? They only give you $5.35 a month. And yeah, homelessness would be a big thing.
how to help the country out of the pandemic well without creating billions of more in debt.
I'm pretty simple. The main thing I want to see change is the first past the post system, though I don't think that's one that's likely to change anytime soon, sadly.
It doesn't seem like much happens here. You know, yeah, the pipeline was a big deal, but we still got all kinds of educational problems, medical aid problems, homeless problems, things like that, which by all appearances, they're just problems and everybody sort of goes by and, Is that what we want?
Federal politics may not be everyone's cup of tea, and that's become obvious in past years with low voter turnout during previous federal elections. Voter apathy could also be attributed to dissatisfaction with government or with politicians in general. Another reason could be that some Canadians are simply not informed enough about the issues. So we set out across the country to ask Canadians what could help make them more engaged. Our question:
what would make you more interested in Canadian politics?
That's a good question, because growing up, you know, I haven't been really interested in politics as much, but I think if they really engage the younger population, the Gen Z, the millennials, in a way that makes politics more attractive, I think that would be a way to get a more young generation to be involved in politics. And just like understanding the impact it would make, you know, long term with what the government does, yeah.
I don't know if I could be more interested. I'm pretty much a political guy, so I follow it quite closely, and I think it's really important. And I think people mistakenly think that politics is voting once every 4 years, and being politically astute is watching the politicians the rest of the time.
If I felt that the politicians were coming from a place of truth and honesty and not about being self-serving for themselves or their families or their friends in higher places, that their interest genuinely is the betterment of the people of this country.
More engaged, yeah. Like, I mean, you know, like O'Toole, I don't really even know anything about him. I haven't really heard anything, you know, since he's got in, you know, so I don't even know what kind of person he is because I really haven't heard much, so. You know, something just to have a leader to be excited about.
Public engagement. I think that, especially with COVID and what's happening right now, we're very focused on the pandemic, and I have no idea what's happening in politics. No idea. And I vote, but right now I have no idea what's going on.
Politicians that don't worry as much about getting reelected and actually doing a proper job.
I think right now the country needs to be unified, and any bickering between political parties just makes people not interested in politics. So they're just not engaging the people versus, you know, too busy battling with each other. So I think if they would actually engage people with what people are looking for, especially after this pandemic, it would probably be more useful.
I don't feel proud anymore. I don't feel like a Canadian anymore. And I can't recommend anybody to vote for. I really can't.
Seeing more representation in the issues I care about, it feels like the major two political parties don't represent my interests at all, so I just feel like I don't have a voice or a say in these elections.
People being honest and people trying to find solutions to some very serious problems that we're all facing, and my sense is that there's a kind of a situation where the opposition is the opposition. It doesn't matter what the issue is, they have to be opposed to it, as opposed to finding a common ground and trying to find a solution that's better for everybody.
It's like no matter what I want or like what I vote for, it doesn't matter because politicians are powerful. They're beholden to their donors, and why would they care what I think, you know? So it's really hard to be interested if you feel powerless, and that's just kind of it.
If I found somebody that I felt I really related to, I suppose, but I don't necessarily feel that happening. And I think if it was more based on a solid platform that I felt what people's policies were as opposed to just attacking each other, I think that would make me more interested. And if they just did a better job of talking about platforms and what they really mean as opposed to just pointing fingers at other people for doing wrong things. And that would make me more interested. Yeah.
I really think, I agree with her 100%. It's really difficult to just hone in on what the actual issues are and what they're going to do about them.
I remember the Trudeau era. We lived near Ottawa, and you heard the term grassroots politics was a common thing you heard, and it seemed to have real meaning, And now I just think it's just another word like that you see on the internet all the time. I don't think people really has a meaning anymore. It's just a word that they throw, and if it sticks, they use it. But real grassroots politics to me would be the number one thing that I'd look for. And that's why I'm not interested in politics, to be honest, anymore, because it doesn't talk to me as a person.
More interested, I guess, maybe if the West had more of a say kind of thing, because right now, we're obviously a completely conservative province, and it doesn't really matter, right? So, it'd be nice if, I don't know how it would happen, but if the West had more of a say or something like that would make us more interesting. Because right now it's like we're solid conservative. There's no chance for any other party to win, and it still doesn't matter. So that's probably the big thing holding the prairies back.
So what would make me more interested would be, like he said it earlier, getting more involved with the community, as well as maybe promoting it a little bit more too, especially making our generation, which is a younger generation, more involved. I think that's sort of what they need to do. And as far as the environment as well, I think we need to have a stronger plan on what we need to do moving forward in order to help fight this climate change battle.
I think having just more youth representation in general, it seems to me that as a young person, as a 29-year-old, looking at a lot of the folks in politics, if you look at even provincially, the youngest person in the legislature in Victoria is 35 years old. They're actually a contemporary of mine who I know. And I think we need more young folk standing up, not just for the planet, but for issues that matter to them,
Quality. Politicians are low quality. So you can't expect a bar to be this high for this country when our politicians are here. I'm not running.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.